This video is to explain intervals and how to work out the quantity, but more importantly, the quality. So I'm going to go through major, perfect and minor first, and that might be all you need to know for your exam. And then I'm also going to go through augmented and diminished intervals. So first of all, we need to know how to work out the quantity. This should be fairly easy, fairly straightforward, just involves a bit of counting. So we start off with the bottom note, we count that as 1. If it starts on a space, then you go space, line, etc. until you get to the top note. Or if it starts on a line, then you go line, space. You have to count all the possible notes in between. So for example, this one starts on D. So we've got D, E, F, G. So that was 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a fourth. Okay, same with, third, sixth, etc. If you have one that is the same note next to each other, that's called unison. And if you have one that's 8 apart, instead of calling it an eighth, we write 8 VE because it's an octave. That's what we say in music. So we need to remember that a minor interval is a semitone lower than a major interval. We'll just start with that. So let's start with working out what an interval is. So if we start on F and we go to E, okay? So we can count up F, G, A, B, C, D, E. So that's 7. So we'll write 7th in there. That's at least, already half of the question answered. And we need to work out what type of 7th. So if you're doing music experience, it's likely that you'll just need to know major, minor and perfect. Have a check with what's written for what's going to be in your exam. And so we need to work out, so perfect intervals are fifths, fourths, unison and octaves. So 1, 8, 4 and 5. So instead of saying major, we say perfect. So what you need to do is you look at your bottom note, this is an F, and we need to look at what the key signature would be for an F major scale. We're always going to work from the major key signature, even if we're trying to figure out how to do a minor one. We're always going to work from the major key signature. So this is where you really need to be familiar with the circle of fifths. So let's have a look for F major. We have a B flat. So does an E, just an E, a normal E, fit in with this scale? It doesn't need to be altered at all. Yeah, that's fine. So that means this is going to be a major 7th. If it was, oopsies. Alright, let's just change this one then. If it was like an E flat, then what we look at is our major key again, and we go, does an E flat fit into this? Not really. What would be a normal E? Just a normal E, no sharps, no flats or anything. So E flat is a semitone lower than the major interval, therefore this is a minor 7th. So it's really important when you're writing this, when you're writing the answers in, that either you write the whole word, major or minor, or it's really clear whether it's a capital or a lowercase letter. So that might be all you need to know for your test. If you have learned about augmented and diminished intervals, then keep listening. So let's have a look at what augmented and diminished intervals are. A diminished interval is one semitone smaller than a minor interval. So for example, this is a minor interval, so it's a semitone smaller than that. So for us it would be E double flat. Okay. And we're sort of looking at enharmonic notes with this. So yes, E double flat is actually the same as a D, but because of the space between the notes, we call it a diminished 7th. And then let's have a look at what an augmented interval is. It's one semitone larger than a perfect, or that's supposed to say major interval. So we had our major interval here before of just your regular E. So it would need to be a semitone larger than an E, so we could have an E sharp in theory, I suppose. augmented seventh. Again, this way it's sort of heading into enharmonic notes because an E sharp is actually technically an F. So it sounds like a perfect, it sounds like a perfect octave. Okay. The most places that you will see the augmented and diminished ones are for perfect fourths and fifths. So if we have a look at let's do C. If we have a look at from C, this is perfect fifth, and then let's pop this in again. Alright, well sure, let's look at it one down here. So this is a perfect fourth. Let's just take that key signature out. Okay, so we have perfect fifth, C to G, and we have perfect fourth, C to F. So these are perfect intervals. If we flatten this perfect fifth, this is now a diminished fifth. If we raise this perfect fourth, this is now an augmented fourth. See how these actually sound exactly the same? It's really, on a keyboard they are the same thing. So we call this a tritone. So if you were writing this down and looking at this is the diminished fifth, this is an augmented fourth. If you heard this in your oral section, you would just write tritone, because obviously you can't orally hear which way it's written because it's the same thing. So that's the main part where you'll find diminished and augmented intervals. The rest will really usually be major or perfect or minor intervals. Just remember to always start with the major key signature rather than looking at any of the minor key signatures.